Hi, guys. Back again. So, this week we're talking about the traditionalist versus modernist controversy. What I'm going to focus in on was the Scopes trial, or Scopes monkey trial, as it's been known, which took place in 1925. The actual trial, which is why I find it interesting, and I've heard it brought up in biology and science discussions and even courses, um, was actually very little to do with the modernist, the legal proceeding had very little to do with the actual constitutionality of teaching evolution or even John T. Scopes breaking the law. He wasn't even a real biology teacher. He was a fill in, a substitute that year, and kind of got convinced and thrown into this hyperbolic case, which got a lot of media attention, which was the point between Brian and Darrow. Inevitably, the case, like I said before, was highly publicized, very hyperbolic, um, covering everything from throwing in states' rights, nationalism, patriotism, and a lot of self promotion from both Brian and Darrow. Ultimately, the conversation, the public debate behind the actual case, or that kind of overshadowed the case, um, was about modernism versus traditionalism, or basically, at the time, anyways, the modernism being defined religiously as including Darwinian theory, stating that the Bible is does have errors, is not to be taken literally, um, and a lot of social definitions and social gospel during this time would be thrown under that modernist umbrella, versus the traditionalists, who basically said the Bible is inerrant, is to be taken literal, word for word, verse for verse, and even that includes the science of it, the 7 days of creation. And at the time, that was the argument. These have kind of moved over time, maybe rightly so, maybe not. But either way, with the Scopes trial, inevitably, John T. Scopes was given $100 fine and then later acquitted. And Brian and Darrow both kind of go at it. And there's the big moment where Darrow catches Brian saying that he didn't believe that it was a literal 7 day creation, and that the modernists ran with that, publicly stating that, see, the Bible is, not to be taken as a source of scientific truth, and that evolution basically ruled the day. Ultimately, I don't think Brian was probably the best candidate to make this argument, but you know, he was very passionate. It was somewhat of a liberal Christian that held to traditional beliefs, which in today's market would probably seem like a real conflict of interest. But at the time, that was not the case. Brian claimed that Darrow's only intention was to publicly delegitimize the Bible, and he even said that Christianity could not survive if evolution wins this debate, which, again, was more of just hype than it was reality. Afterwards, many states would pass bans on the teaching of evolution that wouldn't be struck down until the 1960s and 1970s, um, eventually leading to banning the Bible in public schools altogether, which is the conversation we're still having today, unfortunately. So the Scopes trial, I think, in the modernist traditionalist argument as an event, is a fair representation of its time, though I think it's taken out of context far too often, and doesn't actually get into the nuts and bolts of what actually Christians believe or don't believe. And even for those on the other side of the aisle that are, believe in natural selection or atheism or Darwinianism, the conversation between the modernists and the traditionalists during the Scopes trial was probably not representative of the actual academic debate and the actual foundational facts of both. So that's it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this and found it informative, and everybody have a great weekend. Thank you.